Ford declared that there would be change on his basketball team. The Cowboys won Saturday with a smaller lineup, but was that the change that the Oklahoma State coach was talking about? From the Dodge Sports Desk, I'm Jenny Carlson, and this is the OSU basketball edition of the Bedlam Nation Conversation with Andrea Cohen. Okay, Andrea, Travis Ford last week made a big announcement that change was coming, and with his team struggling, I think a lot of people were welcome to that. But what the heck was he talking about? Just what kind of change was he referring to?
More than anything, I think he felt like he had just gotten away from doing the things that he kind of sees as his, the hallmark Travis Ford stuff. His team wasn't pressing. A lot of that was because, they don't go real deep onto their bench, and he felt like the guys were getting tired, some things like that. I think a big part of it was that a former player of his came for a couple of days and watched practice and stuff, and he said to him, "You've gotten soft." And so I think that he kind of took that to heart a little bit and looked at what was going on. And, when you lose by 25 at Texas and are really not competitive in the game, I think that that's kind of a little soul-searching time. So I think that's mostly what it was about.
The five-guard set was something we saw Saturday against Iowa State. That happened in a Cowboy victory. Was that a product of Iowa State, or is this something we could see again with the Cowboys playing five guards on the floor at once?
I think it was definitely not a product of Iowa State because, if anything, they've got a four guy that's awfully hard to guard with, Terrell Harris, who's 4 inches shorter, 5 inches shorter than him. I think he wanted to kind of shake things up. He started Keaton Page for his career start, which was kind of a big deal. But I think that more than anything, you're just going to see starting lineups really, really based on practice right now. I think that he's really kind of dedicated to, if you don't practice well, probably not going to start you. And he just kind of wanted to try something different. And it was, he started in the second half. He did start Marshall Moses because they needed some post presence. But he needs some guys coming off the bench, providing some energy. So I don't think that that's necessarily meaning that those guys aren't going to play very much. That he just felt like he needed some changes.
A guy that looks like he's practicing playing all the time, no matter where he is, playing well right now, is James Anderson. Continues to impress. Is this guy on the verge of superstar status, perhaps?
He looks like he is. I mean, he had a great week last week. He had, the career high at Texas. Him and Byron Etom were the only guys who played well at Texas. He had 35 that night. Then on Saturday, he went out and had his first career double-double. He was so close so many times. He would have like 12 rebounds and 9 points, or 9 points and 20. It was just so close.
Right.
So he finally got there. And he's been really, really good. And the biggest thing with him is that if he hits a couple threes, all of a sudden he has these guys kind of flying at him, and he can penetrate and take the ball to the basket. And when he does that well, he's really, really hard to stop.
Yeah.
So there's some keys to it. Byron's got to keep getting him the ball the way he's been getting it to him. It helps him out if one of the other guards plays well too, like when Terrell Harris is it creates some balance and defenses can't key in on him as much. But you watch him at Texas, and you're like, there's no reason this guy shouldn't score 25 points a night. I mean, he's really, really good.
Yeah. Because of his versatility, is the reason to believe that this can keep up? I have to think the opponents are going to maybe start to key on him a little bit more, but because of his style and the things he can do, is the reason to believe he could be a 25-point guy scorer for this team?
Sure, and I mean, he's averaging 17 points anyway. It's not like it would be, this huge crazy leap. But I do think that, like you were saying, guys keying in on him. If Terrell Harris is knocking down threes too, it makes it a lot easier for James Anderson to get his points.
Okay, well, let's talk briefly about the off-court stuff that happened a week ago with Travis Ford. There was obviously a lot made of...
It was actually on-court.
Well, yeah, true. On-court, off-court, kind of a crazy thing all the way around. But is there any long-term ramifications from all of that? I mean, we've sort of seen what happened in the short term, but is there any long-term hangover from any of that?
I don't think so. I think it's kind of one of those things that things like that happen every day with almost every program in the country. There's probably not that many exceptions. It's happened to be embarrassing because it was caught on the audio on an ABC broadcast. I don't think there's going to be any kind of real fallout with it. I don't think this is something that recruits are like, oh my gosh, he says bad words, I'm not going to go play for him. I don't think that that's really a factor. I think more than anything, for Travis Ford, he's got to not mentally be overthinking it on the sidelines. I felt like at Texas you watched him and he was just not quite himself. And maybe that's part of what he was talking about on Thursday too. But no, I don't think it's going to be anything that is a big deal.
I think a lot of people, the recruiting thing that you hit on is probably the biggest area of concern for a lot of people, thinking, are kids going to see that and maybe be hesitant to play for a coach that does that. But it sounds like that maybe isn't as big a concern as maybe people might think.
I don't think so. I think if I think guys know that if you sat in on practices, that's what it would sound like a lot of places, and I don't think it's any huge surprise. So I can't imagine that it would really be a factor with most kids.
Okay, all right. Andrea will continue providing in-depth coverage of everything related to Cowboy basketball. To follow all the news and analysis, stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.